All right. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We are so thankful to have you here today for this Keep Indiana Learning event. I'm Marty Hoofer, Digital Content Manager of Keep Indiana Learning, and we are excited to host this series. This is session 1, Academic Planning, Where to Start. And this promises to be a great series. It's a 4-part series with Karen Bush. If you can't make one of the other ones along the way somewhere, know that it'll be posted on YouTube a couple of days after the original event. So you can always go find it on the Keep Indiana Learning YouTube channel. If you have friends who can't be here tonight, let them know it'll be there. I will also tweet about it from the Keep Indiana Learning account, so you'll know when it's there and ready for you. So as we talked about at the beginning, the weather is supposed to be, or it's supposed to be a little dicey all day. It's not quite panned out that way, but we are facing some rough weather here in Indiana this evening. So if things go a little haywire, we're just going to roll with it and figure it out. Karen and I decided. I have all your email addresses. We'll figure it out. So that's a little weather caveat for this evening. So please stay connected tonight by using the chat, by using the reactions button. Karen is very open and flexible to hearing from you if you want to unmute your mic and talk, or you can use the chat. So we want this to be a session that you walk away from with knowledge and information that you can put to use. I started to say tomorrow. There's no reason you can't put it to use tonight, depending on where you are in that college planning process. So let me introduce Karen to you. Mrs. Karen Bush is currently the VP of Education at GBKB Consulting, where she works with students and parents and community-based organizations, as well as school districts, to navigate the college admissions process. Karen was recently the Associate Director of the College Board for the Midwest region for the last 3.5 years. And prior to this, she worked as the College and Career Resource Center Director and the District Graduation Coach for the Metropolitan School District of Pike Township for 9 years. She has over 20 years experience in higher education. So that's why I say you are in good hands tonight. She has, like I said, over 20 years of experience in higher ed, college access, and business marketing that has brought her strengths and her talents to GBKB Consulting to promote a strong college-going culture throughout our state. Karen holds a master's in higher ed and administration and another master's in general management with a minor in education and training. She also has her bachelor's in marketing and business communication. She's currently pursuing her doctorate in educational policy. She's a wife and a mom of 2 boys, so she knows what this is about, and I'm sure that'll come up tonight. She's also an active member of the New Horizons Church and a 36-year member of her sorority, Delta Sigma Theta. So Karen, I'm so excited to turn it over to you and help us learn more about the college admissions process.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I'm excited to be here. I'm excited for this 4-part series that I'm working with Keep Indiana Learning. They are a great resource for information. If you've never heard of Keep Indiana Learning, I implore you to go on their website, go on Twitter, Facebook, they're everywhere, and just get a wealth of knowledge. A lot of their information is out on YouTube. You can look at it at your convenience. My series will also be out there, like she said, the next couple of days and as we go on. So I'm excited that you are here. And today we're going to just kind of start. We're going to break this whole college planning, admissions, what to do, when to do, breaking it into 4 parts. And that's a lot. That's a little, because I could really break it into 10 parts because there is so much that you need to know. But without 4, we could get it covered, touching the high points. Now, one of the things I want to be able to do is, if you have a question, please just stick it in the chat. I'm going to probably take a break in the middle and say, hey, is there any questions? And Marty's going to look in there and see if there's any questions. Or if, there's something burning at the end, I'm going to make sure that I try to cut this off at 7 o'clock so that we can come off of mute and just have some open conversations, even if it's something that I haven't covered or will cover. I also encourage you to please make sure you just kind of jot some notes down, because I'm going to hit it fast. There's a lot of stuff. One of the things I will tell you is tell you, I have these, they're kind of like just a planner. Just get a planner. Just get anything, pieces of paper. Have your son, your daughter, student, whoever, start to take notes on what they're doing, because there's a lot of things going on and they change from year to year to year. Marty says, I have two sons. I have a 10th grader and I actually have a freshman in college. So I will be referring to those two while we're talking. So let's go ahead and jump into academic planning and kind of where to start. Let's see. There we go. Okay, so that's me, of course, Karen Bush, GBKB Education. There is my email. There is my phone number. Please write it down, use it, put it in your phone for future use. I am available to you as a resource. So as she said, last 15 years, what have I been up to? Associate Director of Indiana for the College Board. If you don't know who the College Board is, that's the SAT, that's AP, Advanced Placement classes, that's the PSAT. So I've been the Associate Director for the last 3.5, 4 years. Before that, Director of Postsecondary and the College Resource Center. So my job at MSD Pike was to get kids to and through college. So kind of what we're doing now, but working with 7th, 8th graders in the middle school and all the way 9th through 12th graders. And then before Pike, I was the outreach manager for the Commission on Higher Education. So if you've gotten a Learn More Indiana book, if you know about 21st Century Scholars, that's where I worked for about 5 years. So, and before coming to Indiana, I worked in Ohio, doing a lot of educational things too. So I've kind of been in this genre for a while. My specialty is really post-secondary. What are kids going to do after high school? You have your counselors, your guidance counselors that work with students in school to schedule courses and to make sure they're going to graduate with enough credits and to get out of high school. Where I always come in is, does that kind of reflect what they want to do post-graduation? I tell kids, I don't care what you do, as long as you're not sleeping on your mom and dad's couch, that's good. Now, what I want to kind of talk about real quick is, you'll hear me say college, and then you'll hear me also say post-secondary. They are intertwined, so it's post-secondary. Secondary is high school, so what are they doing after that? Is it a college? Is it career? Is it a trade? Is it an apprenticeship? Is it the military? Is it work? All of these things are post-secondary. So what are the skills that they're going to need to be successful in life after high school? I put this fact out here. So this is from the National Association of College Admissions Counselors. So if your son or daughter attends a public school, guidance counselors, the ones that I talked about earlier that do the scheduling and testing, they spend about just 21% of their time on post-secondary planning. And 21% is rather high, because if you're at a school like my kids go to a very large high school where there's about 3,500 kids, so a counselor's caseload, they may have 500 or 600 students that they're trying to make sure they're taking the right classes, dealing with social emotional problems, making sure that they're testing, grades, all these things. They are very busy. And so when you try to say, okay, here's some post-secondary information, a lot of times they don't have the time to really dig deep. So that's where my specialty comes in when I, again, worked at Pike. Post-secondary planning, just 2 years ago, think pre-COVID, we didn't hear the words test optional that much, or even test blind. Now it's everywhere. It's all the things that people are talking about, but what does it really mean? So it changes every year. The Pell Grant just changed, even though we're not following the FAFSA now, but it increased, the largest increase we've ever had. So there's a lot of things to this post-secondary counseling that your school guidance counselor just may not know, because they are busy with the the day-to-day of running that school. And it is a lot. And it's probably things you don't even know, but they are so busy. And I want to applaud the guidance counselors. A lot of times kids will say, well, I don't know my guidance counselor. And I always say, well, have you gone and talked to them? Have you sent them an email? And I will tell you, parents, if you don't know your child's guidance counselor, find it, go on the website, or call the administration office, like the principal's office, and say, hey, I need to know who my child's guidance counselor is. Reach out to them, work with them on a high school plan that is going to help your student be successful after high school. Great resource. So today we're going to run through a lot. I'm going to, again, try to take some breaks. Again, if Marty, if you see that the chat is going, just interrupt me and say, okay, I think we got a couple questions, but we're going to talk about transcript review. Are you taking the right classes? And it's based upon a viewpoint. Summer school, when I say that to kids, they're like, summer school? What? Yes, summer school. Your GPA, your grade point average, what does it mean? The ACT, SAT, should I take it? Should I make my kids take it? And then developing a plan of action that is grade specific. And then we're going to open it up to questions and answers. So let's talk about the transcript. Parents, if you're a parent on here, I want you to think, when is the last time you've seen your child's transcript? If you haven't seen it in a year, you're behind. If you don't know what's on it from just fall semester, you're behind. You need to make sure that your student's transcript is reviewed every semester. At the end of the year, after they take finals, it'll say on there, if you're in their Skyward or something, it'll say SM1, semester 1, or SM2, semester 2. You need to review it for errors. Is the right classes on there? Are the right grades posted? The credit count. Every state, and I know there are people in here from maybe different states, but every state has a minimum credits for a particular, let's say, like we have the core 40 with academic honors, we have a core 40, we have a general, and there's different credit account required. There's 40, 42, 47. What is the GPA? Are the test scores from the ACT, the SAT, the PSAT, are they on the transcript? Now, some schools put that information, the test scores on there, some don't. That is a school to school issue. But you should know what your student is doing, not just from their day-to-day Canva or just looking at their weekly test grades or quizzes. You need to know what that GPA is. What are they working with? Because that is going to help you all as a family, and I'm going to say it as a family, to decide where are they going to go to school. And I know you say, well, it's really the kid's choice. Yes, it is. But if your son or daughter comes to you and say, Mom, I want to go to this school and it's only $70,000 a year, and you don't have $70,000 a year, that's when you have to say, well, wait, where are you trying to go? And are there schools that offer the same program for less? What are the requirements to get in that school? So if you're thinking in your head, well, my son or daughter wants to go here, so obviously their GPA is this, but then maybe you find out, no, your GPA is not this. So you don't want to be in a situation where you don't know what your son or daughter is striving for or looking for, so that you can plan academically and financially. Also, you want to know, and that's what I said, working with your counselor, if your son or daughter wants to be like, okay, I'm gonna go ahead and start talking about my kids. My oldest, he's studying biology. So both of my boys are STEM kids. They love science and math. So I make sure that most of their classes, especially their AP classes, their dual credit, their honors classes, are steeped in science and math. English, my youngest always says, why do we need the English class? We all know how to talk. So he doesn't understand that you have to learn to write papers, especially even when you get to college, you may write a paper on math. So you need to make sure that their the classes that they're taking are lining up with what we think they want to be or do when they go to college. So you want to make sure that transcript is crisp, is clean, and you are reviewing it with your student. Not just have the student look at it. Now, you can take two ways to get it. You can ask your student to go get it, or you can email your counselor at the end of the semester and say, hey, could you email me a copy of the transcript? That's what I do, because I know sometimes my sons are just not going to bring it. After 5 weeks of asking, they just may not bring it. So I just kind of go around, and then we talk about it as a family to make sure he's in line. And especially through when we went through COVID and my school, their school was shut down. And so they did a lot of online learning. So just looking at grades and trends. So make sure if you haven't seen your child's transcript, go get it. Go get a copy of it tomorrow. Summer school. And the reason you want to look at that transcript is to say, okay, you didn't do so well in this class. Can we take this summer and maybe recover that grade? We can do that. Or maybe we can take a couple classes or one class so that you can get ahead. So maybe I can pull some things off of your fall semester that you can do in the summer, especially if your kid's not working or, well, I shouldn't say that. My son, he's in the 10th grade. And last semester, he didn't do well as he wanted to on a math class. So we're going to recover it in the summer, but also take a class because in the fall, he plays football. And he's at school all day and then he doesn't get home until 7. So that's a class that I can take off. It's history, something he really is not like, oh my God, history. You know, it's just something he has to take. So we're going to take it in the summer just to kind of get ahead. So looking back at the transcript, what can they maybe look at summer school to say, what could we move out the way? What could we recover? Now, when you're looking at recovering, you have to make sure you are looking at the policies and procedures with the school. Some schools will let you recover if you've got a C, a D, or an F. Other schools say only if you have a D or F will they let you recover it. So make sure you check that out. Also, does your high school make you pay for summer school? Is there, here in Indiana, we work with Indiana Online, and every school does it different. One school may charge a kid $50, where other schools, it's free to go to summer school. Definitely, if it's free, go to summer school. Just take one class. Take one of the fun classes. Take your art class or take your Spanish class or French class if you want to. But make use of summer school. It's a good way to kind of get ahead. Now, are you taking the right classes? Students look to us to help guide them. They do. They may not say it, but they do. How do you make sure your student has all the right information they need to make the best decision for them and their future? So where do they start? So parents, we're not at school when scheduling happens. We may not even know what classes they're taking. Some kids may have 7 AP classes and you're like, holy Batman, why do you have 7 AP classes? So you have to kind of get involved with what's going on. I know there's this term out there called helicopter parent. I hate that term because they're your kids. Now, am I suggesting that you go sit in the room with the kid while they're scheduling? No, but you can talk with the kids and talk with the counselor and kind of come up with a plan together to say, well, he doesn't like history, so I don't feel he needs to be in AP World History. Let's put him in a regular history class. My son wants to be an artist. So every AP class, every art, digital art, D2, D3, put him in honors, put him in AP, because that's where his focus is. You may have another kid where it's like business. So are there some classes that you have in your school that are some electives? My son has decided he wanted to be in healthcare, but now he sees, well, maybe I want to do business. So an elective next year is introductory to entrepreneurship. And business law and ethics, something I would have never thought he would have, leaned into, but he really likes it. So how do you start looking again at that transcript, having a conversation with your student? What do you want to be? What do you think you want to be? And a lot of times they may not know, but what do you see as a parent? Do you see them working with their hands? Like I've seen my kids take a computer apart. I was like, wow. Um, do I think either one of my kids will sit down and write a novel? Ever. But will they go in a lab and mix up some chemicals and explode some things? Yes. So we've been watching this, my husband and I, for the last, I don't know, 10 years, just kind of watching them saying, what do they like? What are their interests? Because we're going to come to that in a minute. What are their interests? What do they like? You may have heard the term career interest inventory. So parents, think right now, do you love your job? Would you get up every day? If you had $1 million and $1 trillion, would you get up every day and do that job for free? Maybe. I will tell you that when I got out of college, I was in the wrong situation. I was in the wrong path. Education wasn't even my path. So I'll take a second just to tell you that I went to the University of Cincinnati. I picked my major from television. My mom didn't go to college. I was a first generation kid, low income kid, and I didn't know anything about college. So I didn't have resources and Naviance and all these wonderful things that kids have now. So my counselor came to me February of my senior year and said, hey, are you going to college? And so I said, well, what's that? Luckily, I got to college and I had just a teeny bit of money. I was in accounting. And if anyone is on this call that knows me personally knows, like, why was she in accounting? No, that was wrong. So, but that's what I did because I remember there was a show back in the long time ago. I'm not going to date myself, but it was a group of accountants and they looked so happy and they worked with attorneys and they look happy and they look like they make money. So sure. After my first semester, I was like, no, I'm going to leave school. I hated school. I literally hated school. And at that time, we didn't have a lot of academic advising that kids have now. So I was on my way out. And by the grace of God, I met someone very important that pulled me aside and said, well, you're in the wrong major. Why would you even pick that? And so he got me into the right major. He put me into marketing and then had me minor in communications. And I loved it. I loved it. I graduated and I went up to my first job and I still was like, no, I don't like this. I don't like being a manager to people. And I was able to train some adults about how to be a claims adjuster. That was my first introduction to education. And it went from there. So I just think if I had have had just a little bit of information about who I was, and mind you, I was not, I was 11th in my class, so I had great grades, but I just didn't know. I didn't know to tap into what I like. And no one said I could make money talking. If someone had said that, I would have said, how can I do that? Because that is what I do now. I talk for a living. So what is the goal? And this is going to help us focus as families, as students. What is the goal? Is the goal to get out of high school, get a job? Okay, then what you need to look at is what are the requirements to get out of high school, to get that diploma, and bam, that's all we got to do. Or is the goal to go to college, to go to a trade school, to get an apprenticeship, to go into the military? Those things require some other things. They require maybe a GPA. They may require a test of some sort. So the goal is going to shape your viewpoint of high school. So if there's some 7th and 8th graders on this call, just think about that. Thinking, what do I want to do? is going to shape how you approach high school. So when we look at academic planning, we're going to say, who are you? Okay. What are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? Again, talk about my voice. English. Oh my God. They hate it. They hate it. So that's one of their weaknesses. You'll never find my kids sitting up in the corner reading a book like, oh my goodness. No. They love, their strength are hands and numbers and seeing who can figure out a problem the fastest in their head. I am not a part of that conversation, but I'm over in the corner reading a book. Where do they find happiness? Parents, where do you see your kids thriving? What are their interests in school and out of school? Because you got to start looking at, yes, you have to do these things in school, but what do they like to do out of school? Do they like to draw? Do they like to do speeches? Do they like to work with their hands? Do they like community service? And what skills do they have right now that they could turn into a career? I had a student who was an art student, and someone had told him, you can never make money drawing, so you need to give it up. It broke my heart. I think he had lived with this for about 3-4 months. And he came into my office and I said, well, okay, so where are we trying to go to school? And he says, well, I don't know now because I wanted to be an artist. I didn't know what kind of artist. He said, but they keep telling me I can't make any money and I can't support myself. So I said, well, what do you like to do? And so he said, I like to draw. I like to skateboard, Miss Bush. He said, that's all I want to do. So I found a school, an art school for him. He did his time there. Then he went off to work for LG, Life is Good. And he's in Colorado right now. He turned that love of art. So, you know, the undercarriage, the underside of skateboards and snowboards, where all that drawing is, he does that now for a living. He said he's the happiest he's ever been because he still gets to skateboard, but now he loves to snowboard. And he still gets to draw. He still gets to create, and he's making money. So kids, parents, listen. What is your interest? What do you love? What piques your interest? Because again, when I said parents, what would you get up and do every day? I would get up every day and do this. I would get up every day and talk to kids about going to school. I would get up every day. And the reason is because I have a passion, because no one helped me. And I just love to see when kids kind of put all the pieces together. I get to talk. So what do you like to do? What are your interests? So the discussion involves those high school classes, electives. Again, I told you my son is taking Intro to Entrepreneurship and Business Law and Ethics. What are some honor, so maybe advanced placement and dual credit? Now, I am not a proponent. I worked for College Board. One of my jobs was to get kids to take AP courses. But I am not a proponent of, if a kid has 7 classes to be offered, I don't subscribe to them taking 7 AP classes. I just don't. I have seen the stress that it causes on kids. Now, if they can handle it and they like that, that's fine. But I do believe they need a class where they can just sit and just have some fun and be themselves and not be so stressed. And then also, again, looking at their transcript, looking at their interests, are they taking those AP, dual credit, and honor courses in their interest? Okay, making sure you narrowing it down to their interests. CTE, career technical classes, building a skill. Here in Indiana, we have several schools that have those particular classes built into their curriculum. You can go to, we have JEL, is a whole school that kids can go and develop a skill. Culinary arts, HVAC, EMT, they can come out, CNA, they can come out of high school with these important skills. So if they say, well, I don't think I want to go to school, I want to be an EMT, they can continue to get those classes while in high school. Everybody's path is different. And we have to be okay as parents letting our kids have their path. Extracurricular activities, what are they into? One of my sons, he is, I would have never thought this, but he is the vice president of his class. He loves it. He loves advocacy. My oldest son, he did a lot of work in the community, uh, racial dialogues, and just working as kids for rights. I was just so impressed with their extracurricular activity. Both of my kids are in sports. We're a sports family. My oldest plays baseball in college, and my youngest is a football player. So they're very busy. Plus, they volunteer, do church. Is there internships that they could look at? Shadowing. Shadowing is so important. I had my oldest son go shadow a doctor that we knew for 2 weeks, because you say, oh, I want to be a doctor, but do you really know what's involved in being a doctor? I think if I saw blood, I think I'd tap out. I'm like, I'm done. Yeah. And then what are the short-term and long-term goals? Families, these are discussions that you need to have with your kids. Now, you don't want to have it all at once because they're going to tap out. But just saying, well, what are you interested in? Especially my younger kids, if there's younger kids on this, just little at a time. If you like government, get into something. We have a great program called We the People, where they go and do debate. It is fantastic. There's engineering clubs, there's dance clubs, there's art clubs, there's music clubs. There's all kinds of things. We parents just have to give our kids the room to get involved in these things. Okay, what should you and your student be doing each year? Again, that transcript. Analyzing time management. I don't know how many kids have taken a great time management course and understand the roots of time management, when to start, stop, not procrastinate. I still procrastinate a lot. But how do we get them to understand how to make use of the time that they have? So I have a son that goes to school at, this morning he went to school at 6:30 for football practice. Then he went to school from 8:30 to 3:30. Then he went to tutoring from 3:30 to 4:30. Then he comes home. He's tired. He's done. He has nothing left in the tank, but he has homework. So how does he use his time effective? How do I help him build those skills? Because a lot of times we think our kids are studying and they're not. A lot of kids come home and take this thing called a nap. Marty and I were talking about napping. I know kids that come home and take a 4-hour nap and then get up and may do homework or may not. So are you analyzing how they're using their time well? Again, exploring those strengths and weakness. Career interest is called a career interest inventory. If your school has one, sometimes they're connected through a tool called Naviance, or they may use another tool. A career interest inventory is a great thing for your son or daughter to do. Some of them are long, some of them are short, but they ask a lot of questions. And what will happen is at the end of the survey, they will spill out some careers that are tied to their interests, so they can start looking at, I do have an interest in that. My son said, well, I don't want to be a doctor, but I want to make the tools that the doctors use in surgery. I was like, wow, I don't know what that is. Biomedical engineering. Learn something new. So let's have your conversations about what are they interests. Academic planning. We went over that. And then post-secondary goals. A lot of times your kids will say, well, I want to go to college. But they really may not. Or they think they should because they've heard college, you got to go to college. But is it college in the, sense of the 4-year brick building? Or maybe it's a 2-year community college. It could be a trade. It could be apprenticeship. We just don't know. But starting those conversations early and often are great things for you to have at home, because you're going to support what the counselor is doing at school. You are the parent. Grade point average. Why is this important? Okay, again, the goal. If your goal is to get out of high school, then and get a job, it doesn't matter. Well, it does, but it's not foremost, because we're not trying to go into something else. If the goal is to go to something else, to go to college, to go to the military, to go to another place, then the goals and how you set them and the plans that you set for the goal have to be different. Because everything that you do is going to need some type of tests. You're going to still need some type of schooling. So you need to know what your goal is. So again, I said it earlier, post-secondary, what is it? There's 2 years. Here in Indiana, we have Ivy Tech. They're everywhere. They're just about every city of this state. 4 years. So that's your IUs, your Ball States, your Harvard, Yale. You have the military. Great. You can even go to the military, because my husband went to the military after college. So he went, got his degree, and then still went into the military. Vocational or an apprenticeship. These are all the things, all the choices that your kids have, but they must know the requirement to get in and to get out. So what do I need to get out of high school to get into those? Okay. Those are the conversations. In the military, you have to take a test called the ASVAB. What's the score? What's the number? I think each branch is different score. A vocational school or apprentice, am I going straight to going to be an electrician, or can I work and be a CNA while in high school? There's all these things that you have to start planning for. So let's go back to that grade point average. There's 2 different grade point averages, weighted and non-weighted or unweighted. And a lot of people are like, what do you mean 2 GPAs? Yes. Now, we have a system called Skyward. I don't know, some schools have Power School or this or that. Go in there tonight and see, what is it labeled for your child's GPA if they're in high school? What does it say? If your child has taken any honors classes, AP, dual credit, or IB, which is International Baccalaureate. Dual credit classes are if they're taking a class in school for college credit. AP is advanced placement through College Board, or just an honors class, a higher level class. That's what gives the kids an extra weight. Some high schools, be forewarned, some high schools do not give weight for those particular classes. Some schools do. The school my kids attend, they give weight. Some schools will give a whole 1 point extra on their final grade when you calculate. So let's go back. Let's go old school. When I was in school, an A was 4 points, a B was 3 points, C 2, D 1, and an F 0. So now if you get a weighted GPA, let's say I took honors English, then, and I got an A. So that 4 point may be a 4.09. So you take enough of those, your weighted GPA could be a point or 2 higher than your unweighted. So again, unweighted is the school doesn't take any account to the difficulty of a class. They use the regular model from a 0 to a 4, A 4, B 3, C 2, D 1. Weighted, they look at the difficulty, the rigor of the class, and they will calculate additional weight for that. There are some school districts in the United States that kids have a 6.7 GPA. So what does that mean? What does that mean? What do colleges do with that? It means that they have an A. So take a look at, here we go. So you can kind of see the difference here. You can have, let's go down to that 2.0. You can have a 2.0, a C, but also have a 3.0 weighted GPA. Now the top one is interesting at best. So you have a 4.4. I'm not going to use that one because I don't think I like that one. You have a 4.0, which is an A, unweighted GPA. So you have a 5.0 weighted GPA. What does that mean? That means you have an A average. That means that you've taken several honors, AP, or dual credit classes, and you've scored well in them. Now, what does a college do with that information? Well, that's the secret to all of this. What does the college do with that? So again, it's a mix. AP, honors, dual credit. And again, you see, you don't need 100 of those classes. But what you need to understand is that GPA is rooted in two things, two areas: college admissions and scholarships. Now I'm gonna give you I'm gonna talk about my son. He goes to a private school, science school, HBCU, Tuskegee University, well known for science. The GPA for admissions into biology was here. The GPA to get this full ride scholarship was here. When I first saw it, I'm like, oh, this is great because you have this. The admissions was weighted. They wanted the weighted GPA. The scholarship was based on an unweighted GPA. He missed it by 0.002 points, and they didn't care. So he got the next scholarship down. So this is why it is important when I go back to looking at the transcript. What is the GPA? What is the weighted? What is the unweighted? And what does the school want? What do they want for admissions? What do they want for scholarships? Is it weighted? Is it unweighted? Now, it may not say that on the website. So you have to pick up the phone and say, hey, quick question. I see you have a full ride scholarship here for music. Is it based on a weighted or unweighted GPA? They will let you know. Sometimes it is actually posted on the site. Okay. Does anybody have any questions about that? I want to make sure you are very clear. 2 GPAs. Make sure you know the difference between the two. It is going to be very important when you look at college admissions. So, and we'll get into this in just a second. And I want to make sure I'm trying to cover everything. When we talk about test optional and test blind and getting into that information, that is where that GPA is going to be even more critical. Your grades in all courses is considerably the most important factor in college admission. That is a NACAC stat. It is true. So I want everybody to take a minute. I'm going to give you a second to look at this. This is also from NACAC admissions trends. What are colleges looking at the most? Grades in all courses. Then grades in the college prep courses, those dual credit, those AP, those honors. Not how many, not that they took 50, but how did they do in them? Okay, I know sometimes people like to try to play the game. Well, if I just have them take lower classes and get all A's, that'll do it because they're just looking at the GPA. They want to also see rigor. Colleges are looking for rigor. Now, I'm going to take the Core 40 with Academic Honors diploma here in Indiana. One of the requirements is that you have to have 2 AP classes or 2 dual credit or 1 AP, 1 dual credit. So it's 2 to get the diploma. Now, people take a lot more than just 2. Let's say you take 6 in your strength, in your interests, and you do well in them. So now you're showing schools that, yes, I want to be a business major and I have taken AP Calc, AP Stats, I've taken AP Business Law, I've taken these particular courses because they're going to look at that. What a lot of people don't know is that colleges, they will take your GPA sometimes when you have a 6.0 or a 5.0, they recalculate your GPA to a 4.0 so that they can understand what it really means. Because across the country, every school, even in Indiana, every school grades different. If I put the weights on Two different schools, they're going to be different. So you have to know what your school is doing, what your high school is doing, making sure the strength of curriculum. Does your kid have a really good, does it say college prep? Does it say that they want to go into science and they've taken biology, they've taken chemistry, they've done some lab work, strength of curriculum in their interests that they want to go into. Now we see their admissions test scores 40, 45%, considerably important, moderately important is 37. Now look at the next thing, it drops down significantly. Essay, counselor recommendation, class rank. A lot of kids think class rank is the thing. It's not. It's not. Look here, subject test scores for AP and IB. Now think about this. If you take an AP class and you don't take the test, there is no score. Some schools will let you not take the test. Some schools make you take the test. But if you don't send the test score to the school, they still will never have them. And if you're a senior, the test scores don't come out until July. The decision's already been made. So that is considerably not as important as you think. Your grades, college prep courses, that rigor, the strength of that in your interest. I can't say that enough. Please, in your interest. If they have no interest in AP art, don't make them take AP art just to say they're taking an AP class. Find their interests. Okay. I'm gonna get a sip of water for this one. This is a big one. This is all the rage, all the talk. I read 4 articles today on this today. And it was very ambiguous because in the beginning it said, oh, we're not going to take SAT and ACT scores anymore. But by the time you got to the middle, they said, well, but for transfer students, we are. And for incoming freshmen that have less than, we will. So you got to know who, where, when, why, how, all the things of the college that you're looking at. Okay, so why take the test? You got test optional and test blind. You don't hear test blind a lot because there's not a lot of schools that say test blind, but test optional, you hear it, you hear it, you hear it. But why should you take the test? Because A, it evaluates your GPA against the average, okay? So if you have an average GPA and let's say University of Cincinnati says the average GPA is at 3.5, you have maybe less than a 3.5. You can use that score to help in the admissions decision. Again, it helps you stand out against the competition. Because some kids say, well, I've got a 3.5. So I'm just going to go and I'm not going to take the test. So I've got this one kid over here. So I've got all these other kids with the same 3.5. They have a test score that shows that they have the ability to score a C or better in college. So they have something that this kid doesn't. So it kind of gives you a little bit more. Now, keep listening to the word optional. It's optional. Whipped cream is optional, but it makes it better, right? Sprinkles are optional, but it makes it better. Scholarships. Some schools need a test score for scholarships. Because everybody with a 3.5, if everybody gets in, everybody's not going to get the scholarship. They don't have that much money. So what they use is certain markers. Test score is one of them. I'm not saying all schools do this, but you've got to do your research. Placement in a competitive degree program. Engineering, I can't say it enough. If your kid is trying to go into engineering or biology at certain schools or just those high-powered jobs, it's competitive, and you know that. Any parent that has tried to get their kid into Purdue Engineering or UC's engineering program, you know how competitive it is. You know how stressful it is. And again, have something to submit if admission decision goes the way you didn't think. A lot of kids are getting waitlisted or getting denied with a score and maybe even without a score. So if you apply test optional, you said, I'm not going to submit a test. So they waitlist you and they put you on a list to say, we're going to wait. What do you have to give them to say, well, you don't have to wait for me. I got something else here to show you that I'm a good student. I got a good test score. So think of it in that regard. Now, let's talk about tests optional. Test scores are not required. Not required at all, but it's optional. And they actually ask students on their application why they are not submitting their scores. Some schools will do that. So does that really mean it's optional? And that's why kids get so confused to say, well, it said test optional, but they're asking me for my score on this application. Others may request that you apply test optional. And that's the only way. And if you decide to go test optional and you get denied, you can't submit anything else. Or you can submit the regular way. And if you get waitlisted, you can come back and submit an essay. You can submit a test score, an updated test score. You can submit more information. Trust me, no school wants to say no. They don't. So if it's optional, why not take it? Just to have something in your hip pocket, just in case they need it, just in case you get waitlisted. I was telling Marty, I was looking at TikTok. It's one of my favorite apps. A girl, she had great scores, this, that, and this, but she got waitlisted and rejected from every school except for 2. She has the same GPA, that 4.0. She was applying to Harvard and Yale and Georgetown and Northwestern and all these Ivy League schools, but everybody has that same score. And when you look at the admissions rate of 10%, she was confused. She was like, why did I get waitlisted? She didn't submit her score. So I talked to her and I said, submit your score. You got a great score, submit it. So we're going to track to see if she gets into a couple of the schools that she got waitlisted. Because she thought, well, I don't need the score because I got a 4.0. Now, know that without test scores, other parts of your application become more important. Again, that GPA, I keep going back to it, the GPA. So if you don't know what it is, and there's the average, and there's people above it and people below it. So if you're the average school's freshman admissions class GPA is a 3.8 unweighted, and your student has a 3.5 unweighted, they're going to look at that. They're going to look at the essays, the awards, the achievements, extracurriculum. And if you have a test score to submit with it, because now that becomes the focus of that. Then there are schools called test blind. Like I said,
hold on, Karen.
Yes.
Hold on. We got a question that goes along with test optional, and that's why I wanted to catch you there. You kind of alluded to it, but not, I want to ask it exactly as it was asked.
Okay.
If a student doesn't do well on the SAT and it's test optional, would you recommend they submit, and would that help or hurt?
If their average GPA is below, I would submit it.
Okay. So even though it's not a strong score, you would go ahead and submit it.
Strong score is a relative word.
Fair.
Because again, going back and looking at the research of the school, what's the average test score? Because I'm gonna tell you something, what a lot of people don't know, kids are still submitting test scores in droves. Kids are still taking the ACT and SAT in droves. There is not this huge movement that you think that kids are not taking these tests. They are, because they know they have strength and power. What I want to say to that is test prep. Now, there's test prep that's in a big book that you can get off the shelf, and a kid can go through it. Anybody can go through it, and get the same information. Then there's test prep. And please don't think I'm promoting this because I work for College Board. And I say, if you're taking the ACT or SAT, it's the same stuff that's being tested, okay? But Khan Academy, if your kid uses Khan Academy in school for anything, there is a SAT test prep. If your kid is taking the PSAT, 10th grade or 11th grade, that is a preliminary SAT test. It's a preliminary test. What they will do is go in, they will pull all of that great information, that data about how they did, what their strengths were, what their weaknesses were. If they pulled mine, they would be like, you need to be in math for 5 weeks, child, because you don't know it. I've lost it. But I may only spend 1 week doing English. So they pull all that information and make each kid a personalized test prep study guide, period. So my test prep will be different from Marty's, who will be different from my son's, who will be different from your daughters. Everybody's will be different because it's based upon what they know. Now think about it like this. When you tell kids, you practice for sports, I see how my son practiced for football, baseball, this and that. You can't just practice one time. You've got to build up a tolerance to it. It's a 3-hour test. So I ask parents and students, who has taught you to sit for a 3-hour test? Nobody. Who has taught you to answer 58 questions in 62 minutes? Nobody. It's hard. It's intimidating. But you got to practice to speed up. The Khan Academy test prep, the one thing that makes it different, it has a timer on it. So it helps kids speed up. I've had kids call me and say, Ms. Bush, I have left the test. Like, what? I couldn't do it. It was too fast. I don't know how to work that fast. Because when you get a test at school, it's maybe 20 questions for a whole hour. So we've got to get kids conditioned. I had my son, and I would suggest anybody do test prep 1 month before the test. I had my son do it an hour a day, 6 days a week. And on Sunday, he took a full-length test. On this test prep, there are 8 full-length real tests so that they can get in the habit of doing it. When my son first took the test, he didn't do well. He got like a 1070. He took it again. He got to a 1280 just by practicing. So a one and done is not what you do. I have a sophomore. He's taking the ACT this summer so that he can just see what it's about. And then he's going to take it again in December, but we'll do test prep in December. Here in Indiana, we're going to take the SAT in March. All the juniors will. He'll test prep in February. Then we will make an assessment of which one did he do better on. And then he'll take that again. I am not a proponent of taking a test 7, 8 times, maybe 2, 3 times and done, leave it. So if the score's not good, have them take it again. If they're a junior, if they are a junior right now, have them take it again this summer, but do test prep. Make them do it. Now I'm gonna tell you, they're kids. I said, oh, just do it, Jay. He didn't do it. I think he did about, I don't know, I say 6 minutes, but that's not true. He probably did an hour test prep on the first test and said, oh, I did it. The second time, I made him sit in the living room and do it. And I watched him and I became his coach to make him, that's where that parent pushes. And he's 270 something points better. That got him that other scholarship. So I suggest have them take it, have them do test prep, have them take it at least twice, do test prep. I hope I answered that.
Yeah, I think you did. Thank you.
Okay. It's like I said, it's a confusing landscape. I know there's a school here in Indiana that you have to decide if you're going to apply test optional or you can apply regular. You have to pick. I would always apply regular because I want to be able to give more information if my kid needs to submit some more information. Okay. Again, that's where that research comes in. A goal without a plan is just a wish. I tell kids this all the time. Gotta have a plan. You have to have a plan to study. You have to have a plan to do well on your tests, your ACT or your SAT. You have to have a plan to study. You have to have a plan to research colleges. Like I said, get a book, get any kind of book and start writing in it, taking notes, doing the research. Parents, I know sometimes your kids are probably not going to do the research because they're just not going to. You may have to do the research. We took our son on college visits for spring break. That was our spring break. It wasn't, but as a parent, you have to do that. So I wanted him to hear, okay, what does it take? But I don't think it went in. So now I am going to go in and say, hey, did you hear that an out-of-state student at Georgia Tech has to have a 3.9 GPA? Did you hear that? Unweighted? Did we look at the scholarships for out-of-state students? Because the school is $58,000, which I'm not gonna pay for. But anyway, so putting those goals into place, those are going to be so important. The knowledge is power. Learning styles. How does your kid learn? Time management skills. Are they studying? Do they know how to take notes? Career interest inventory. I keep saying I'm going to do my dissertation on studying and how kids don't study. They cram. Because who's taught them how to study? Are you teaching your kids how to study? Or do you think the school is teaching your kid how to study? This kind of all goes with you, parents, families, sitting together and looking at what is going on with my kid? How do I partner with the school? How do I partner with my counselor to make sure the whole needs of my child is being met without being a helicopter parent, but knowing what is going on every step of the way with your child so that you can be a resource to your child. They can bounce information off of you. You know your kid better than anyone else. So make sure you're taking the time to kind of get that information. Again, planning for post-secondary, there's so many options, so many college majors, health, finance, fashion. I never knew there was a major called a buyer. They buy clothes. Who does that? That sounds like the dream job. If someone had presented that to me at 18, that's probably what I would have done. Let your kid explore what they want to be. I met a light engineer last year. I didn't know there was such a thing. Because he loved lights and the different types. And there's a school that has light engineers. Isn't that amazing? So let your kid explore. You help them. Did you know some schools will let kids develop their own major? That's a new and exciting thing that's happening across the United States. Now, last thing I want to real quick, because I know I'm over, some do's and don'ts. Don't choose a career based on your friend or television. Don't choose a field just because it's hot. So we hear STEM. Every kid is not a STEM kid, not at all. Every kid doesn't like, if that was presented to me, I would run. I would I'm just gonna stay at McDonald's and work because I don't wanna do numbers and I don't wanna put stuff in a tube and then be in a lab and I don't like engineering. I would have said no. And also, don't base it on salary alone. A lot of kids are looking at the money and they want it fast and they want it in a hurry. It's this microwave generation. Give it to me now, give it to me quick. Because if you do what you love, you're gonna make money at it. My mom told me a long time ago, you should be a teacher. I was like, oh, no, Mom. I don't like the kids that I'm around. Why would you think I want to be around more kids? But I teach, professor, I talk to kids all day. So it wasn't about the salary. It's about what are your interests? Match your interests. And then again, parents, help your kids research all the options. And if they say, you know what, I want to go to the Air Force, and say, okay, let's look at the Air Force. Let's look at the options in the Air Force. My father was in the Air Force. I have 3 uncles that were in the Marines. My brother was in the Navy. My husband was in the Air. There's careers out there. So let them explore them. Now, I will say, as a freshman, they may want to go to the military. And then by the time they're a junior, they may say, well, I want to be a doctor. Help them cultivate, help them learn, help them be open, because you can actually be a doctor in the military. So I covered a lot. I covered it very quickly. Now, I just want to caveat that. I said it quickly. There's a lot of information that I did not cover that I can, like I said, take hours and hours to go into. But I want to open up the floor to the chat, or if anybody wants to come off mute and just have a quick conversation, I am open.
Right now, there's nothing in the chat, but I want to give folks time to type. Or come off mute.
I'm going to ask the parents, who taught your student how to study? And are you satisfied with how they study? And the third question is, do you know your student's GPA? So those are my 3 questions for you. You can put it in the chat, or you can just come off mute and let's just have a chat about it. I don't think I can see the chat.
You should be able to.
I think if I don't know if.
You may have to exit out of full screen view.
Yeah. Okay.
So I'll break the ice. I no longer have high school age kids, but who taught my kids to study? Me a little and not very well. So
it's hard.
Yeah.
I mean, I've taught mine to study. I've taught mine how to do time management. We took big giant, the big giant Post-it things that you use in presentations to write his schedule. So and we posted them around the room because he's visual.
Mm-hmm.
He knows that he can't watch TV or listen to music, because I'm the same way. I can't listen to music while I'm working, because then I start bebopping around and then I'm dancing. I have to have the TV on, but it can't be loud. I have to do my work in chunks, like 2 hours, take a break, 2 hours, take a break. So understanding how your kid learns. Are they auditory? Are they visual? Are they, do they have, my oldest, memory, like, oh my God, he can look at something and memorize it. Other kid, he has to study.
So Jessica hopped in the chat. My child went to CLD and learned how to effectively study. And then I was thinking, I don't know what CLD is. She then explained the Center for Leadership Development.
Yes, I am a facilitator at CLD. CLD is great. If you don't know about it, CLD has all types of classes. They have math tutors. They have college. Linda Bingham is the best college counselor down there. We do all types of things for students, small classes, about 15 to 20 kids, to help them learn these skills, because they're not being taught in school. Because there's 7 periods and nobody has time to teach kids how to study. We assume that kids know how to study, and they don't. We assume kids know time management, but they don't. So those things are very, very important.
Thank you, Jessica, for sharing that. I'm glad, and I'm glad you said what CLD was. I'm like, I have no idea what that is. So thank you.
great place. And I'm glad that you're putting your kid in there. I don't know what grade they're in, but every year they have something. My son did the medical program at Eskenazi. He did the 14-week college program. I actually was his teacher for that. So yeah, it's a great program, great program. And also parents, if your kid doesn't want to take the traditional path, look into, it's called JEL. It's a school behind North Central. They have all types of trades and apprenticeships. And if your kid wants culinary arts, or they want to be a beautician or a barber or HVAC or sheet metal, it's out there. It's everywhere. If your kid goes to Lawrence North or Lawrence Central, McKenzie Center, that's what they're dedicated for. If your kid goes to Pike, it's actually, there's a restaurant in the school that is teaching culinary arts that's open every day, and they serve meals from the kids. You just have to start looking and researching to see what your school has. There's so much out there.
Something I read today, we're going to publish a blog on Keep Indiana Learning, I think in May. This teacher wrote a blog about student-run businesses, and he filmed a video of talking to the students. And these are high school seniors, every one of them in this video. We're talking about repairing 3D printers and
Yes.
running this business. And what a great opportunity. This is a high school in Lagodi. So maybe they don't have a career center wherever you're watching from, but there's some way, whether
Yes.
it's an internship, whether it's that student-run business at school, there's a way to start learning and researching in a hands-on kind of way.
That was one of the things that excited me about Pike. They had a student-run beauty shop, barber shop in the back of the school that people from the outside could come and pay and get their hair done. It was amazing. The restaurant, it opened every day for lunch. They served some of the best food and cakes and pies. And I know at the McKenzie Center in Lawrence North here, they have their restaurant there. I've eaten there several times. They do HVAC. I mean, when's the last time you had to call somebody about your air conditioning going out? Yeah. Or a plumber or an electrician, so there's so much out there. And as you can see, I have up on the board, on the screen, college majors. That's our next session. So over the next month, we're going to meet every 2 weeks. We're going to step through this. So college majors, what are they? We're going to dig deep into 2-year, 4-year vocationals, apprenticeships. What do they mean? Like, I know there's a program here with, and I'm going to get the name wrong, but it's an electrician, local something. All you have to do is graduate, pass an Algebra 2 test, and they will put you into their program for free to learn to be a master electrician.
There's a program on the west side of Indy, maybe Brownsburg, for real estate agents.
Yes.
I can't think of the name of it, but I'm like, when I heard about it, I'm like, well, isn't that the coolest thing ever?
Yes.
What a job to have. Okay, so we do have a question in the chat.
Okay, excellent.
It's a fascinating question. Question regarding the effects that virtual learning had on students' GPA. Will colleges take that into consideration, and how do you communicate that with college admissions? What a great question.
That is a great question. We in education hear the term learning loss, COVID learning loss, COVID learning disruption, because we don't like the word loss. So there was a disruption. My kids went through it. I see it now coming out in my son, who spent his first year of high school in his room on a computer. And now he's in a class where he's like, wait, I don't know if I learned this last year, or if I did, I kind of taught myself. Yes, there are learning disruptions. Yes, there are learning loss. If your kid is still in school, if they're a freshman, sophomore, junior, what you can do is try to identify, and it'll show up maybe in their grades, identify. It's showing up in my son in math. It's something he was strong in, but because he had to teach himself last year, and now he's trying to get back in the groove this year. So we got a tutor to kind of support what he lost. How do you communicate that in a student's essay? That is the one time a student has a voice. And I will tell you that colleges want to hear from the kids. They want it in the kids' voice to explain, this is what I lost. My first 2 years of high school on a screen. They want them to be truthful. They want them to explain what they feel that they lost in their voice, and they will hear it, because that can support. Maybe I have a low GPA. Let me tell you why I got a low GPA. When I started, I had a high GPA, and then I haven't seen school in 2 years, and now here I'm a senior. This is why. Explain it. They are going to listen. So that is the way to explain it, is through that essay. Also, teacher recommendation. If you had a teacher that knows your potential, have your teacher talk about, yes, we weren't here for 2 years, but I know this kid is a strong kid. That's why those recommendation letters are also kind of important too, because again, we talk about test optional, we're moving all that aside. So now they're looking at the GPA, the letters, the extracurriculum, the essays, the recommendation. So now those come up and those speak loudly. But because they're optional, sometimes kids don't submit them. Submit everything that's optional. Everything. That's a great question, because we're going to see that a lot this year and next year.
Yes, that's what I was just getting ready to say. We're going to see it for a while.
Yes.
And those are great ways to kind of counterbalance that student voice and teacher letter. Those are great answers.
Yes.
Yeah, love that. Love that. Let me scroll through the chat, make sure I don't miss anything. I don't.
One of the things I do want to say, though, is that when picking a college, don't just pick, your kid may say, I want Harvard, Duke, Yale, MIT, and this. In our next session, college major, one of the things is the big why. Why? Why that school? What do you know about that school? Or did you just see it on television? We've got to get down to why a kid wants to go there, because it may just be, I saw they got a great basketball team. Well, do you play basketball? No. Okay, so we can still watch them on television, but do we have to go there? So it's getting kids to really understand why we're doing the things they're doing, why you're picking the school. Are you picking the school because that's just what you know? Or do you know there's schools just like here in Indiana, states over, there's schools in Kentucky and Ohio. There's schools that have reciprocity agreements that will give you in-state tuition, even though you live here in Indiana. The wonderful University of Cincinnati has a reciprocity agreement that you pay, I think it's like $1,000 extra a semester to go to UC. Where at other schools like Ohio State, who I love, an out-of-state student pays, I think right now we're at $52,000 a year. If you're in-state, I think it's 24. So it's almost double. And that's a lot of places. We're going to talk about kids, if you're a 21st century scholar, if your parents signed you up in the 7th and 8th grade and you graduate with a 2.0, you can get your college tuition paid for. That's a college affordability right there. So we're going to step through these sessions coming up, but we're going to break them down so that people can really understand them. So in 2 weeks, April 27th, we've got college majors. We're going to really research post-secondary options, match versus fit. I can match you. I can match you through a computer program, but does it fit? Does it fit you? How to develop a strong college list, and what to do on a college visit. My son went to 3 colleges this spring break. The only question I asked him is, how does it feel? How does it feel? Are you trying this on? Does it feel good? He kept looking at me. I'm like, that's all the questions I have is, how does it feel? Can you see yourself here? Because that's another conversation of fit versus match. And then again, applying to college, we're going to really dig into ACT, SAT, and we're going to talk about test prep. We're going to talk about the college essay and resumes, a stronger list, social media, athletes. What happens if you don't get in? What do you do if you don't get in? And what do you do if you get in, but you don't get money? And then we'll wrap up with college affordability. Can you afford where you want to go? Parents, if you're like me, no, I didn't save money from the time he came out my womb and there's this safe full of money. No, we didn't do that. I have a girlfriend, she did it. Her and her husband are great. They've got monies put away for both of their boys. We didn't do that. So what do you do when you haven't done that? So we're going to, like I said, dig deep into these conversations. I hope you join us. Spread this information around. This is free information that is valuable for you. If you're starting this process, please share as much information as you can with whomever. And I just want to say thank you for coming. I just kind of went through this. And if you need to reach out to me, please do at Karen@gbkbconsulting.com. And then there's my phone number. You can call me, text me, and I'm here to help you guys through this process.
Oh, Karen, thank you so much. So much good information. What a blessing this has been, I know, to those watching tonight and to those that'll watch in the future. So thank you so much. As Karen's already said, she took a couple of my bullet points. Session number 2 coming up in 2 weeks, college majors, what I want to do when I grow up. Yes. That'll promises to be a great session as well. I have put a link in the chat. You can take a short survey, give Karen some feedback. And also if you're needing PGP points, if you're an education professional, you can get that PGP certificate by filling out the survey. So the link is in the chat. And if you're watching later and need that link, feel free to email me, mhoofer@ciesc.org, and I can get that survey to you. So we hope to see you at a future Keep Indiana Learning event. Thank you so much and have a great night.
Thank you, everybody. Have a great, wonderful night.
Thank you, Karen.
Thank you.